Today's advent calendar is the Mutant, or the M6A2E1. Now it is going for 7,000 gold exactly, which is not a bad price. It's roughly £22. You can then transfer that into whatever country is yours. A few things about this tank: it does get preferential matchmaking. It will never see tier 10s. The armor is very nice for that reason. It's around about 250mm thick on this upper plate here, around about 230, 240 on these little kind of corner bits, and around about 230-ish just above the gun mantlet here, and just above the hull armor here, just right beneath it. The turret ring is also around about 230 if you're looking dead on at it. It does have a cupola at the top. It is not super reliable to hit because it is quite small, and also the gun mantlet itself, either side here and here, is around about 230mm thick. The lower plate is also really well angled, so you probably bounce quite a bit off that. But because the upper plate and the lower plate are really well angled, it does mean that you can bait shots around corners like this, a bit like the Liberté can. The gun on this tank is not super good. It gets 204 standard pen and then 245 premium pen. It's enough most of the time. Again, if you meet a Type 4, 250 is going to be around about a 50-50 pen most of the time. It's not quite that kind of 260 pen which some tanks get, but it is more than enough usually. The gun handling on this tank is a bit derpy, and you're going to need V-stab because the dispersion values are awful. We're talking like 0.16 to actually turn the turret. Yeah, that's quite bad. And DPM wise, it is pretty abysmal as well. I mean, if we go and whack it into a comparison, you'll see that the DPM is only 15 better than the Lerva. Right. But I mean, at least with the Lerva, you do get the much better accuracy in comparison to the Mutant. So equipment choices on this tank are a little bit limited for that reason. Because even if you have the crew maxed out completely and you get your vents and you get the food, you're going to have 441 meters view range, which most of the time is enough for a heavy tank. But when you get into those awkward situations where you want to spot a little bit more, you know, get that 445 meters. That's what everyone really aims for, just to be completely safe at that longer distance. It's just not going to really be there. And you have to use V-stab and you have to use a gun rammer. Just how it is. Never drop the gun rammer, never drop V-stab on this tank. Like, you need to pump up that DPM, otherwise it's just going to be abysmal all the time. If you don't care about view range though, then you could drop this and then go for turbo, because it is quite a slow vehicle. Make sure that's in that slot, and then you go to the field mods, choose all your field mods, whatever you wanted, and then you can pick the mobility slot as well, and then you go at 34 kilometers an hour instead of 29. But obviously you're only going to have 430 meters view range, but that doesn't matter too much because you could always just choose this and then you get to 442. So it's not too bad. One thing that I will say is you do not need the all-terrain suspension, which you do on most heavy tanks, to kind of get it moving. If you choose a lightweight suspension, you get a little bit more track health, which is going to help out with the lower tiers, especially lower calibers. Because the terrain resistances on this tank are actually really good. On hard and medium, they're completely fine. You're never going to drop below that maximum top speed. There's no worries about that, and even if you choose -7%, it doesn't make a difference. And on soft terrain, it doesn't make that much of a difference. We're talking going from about 19 kilometers an hour to about 21. It doesn't make too much of a difference. So I would take the extra little bit of track health any day over a bit better soft terrain, because the chances of you actually going through like swampy environments is not that often. And of course you choose aim circle size to get that dispersion down as much as you can. So with all of this kind of setup, you have 442 view range, you have 0.35 accuracy, around about 2k DPM, and you go at 34, which is not too bad all things considered. Obviously if you have bounty equipment, it will go up to over 2k, which is going to be quite nice, and you can also use bounty V-stab if you have it. I'd actually recommend you put bounty V-stab if you do have it, because the dispersion values are awful. And also, if you have a load of stabilizer greasing stocked up from Frontline all those years ago, before they ruined it, then you can use that as well. So yeah, once you actually get this thing kitted out, it's a pretty nice tank. And considering that it's never going to meet tier 10s, I think it's definitely worth considering. So this vehicle is really nice for those of you that don't want to meet tier 10s. and just want to have a tank that can really bully low tier, it's a lot like the 112 in that respect. It won't ever meet tier 10s, and it doesn't really do well against tier 9s, or its own tier if they're really like spamming gold and have high pen. But against your own tier, where you can kind of get away with, if they have about 260 pen, then most of the time they're just going to bounce off your upper hull. And then at low tiers, they just don't even stand a chance against this thing. Like tier 6 against this is a joke. It actually is. So, yes, it's probably worth it if you're one of those types of people. However, if you just want a tank that is going to do really, really well and earn you a lot of money, I don't know. Because 204 standard pen, in nowadays world of tanks, not really very good. Like, 204 is quite bad, actually. Especially for a heavy tank. Because for a heavy tank, you're going to be meeting other heavy tanks. And fighting other heavy tanks. And majority of them are going to have more than 200 millimeters of armor. Even on their weak spots. Like, if you meet a Malshan, the Cupola is over 200 pen. So, it's just what you meant to really do in that situation. Even with premium rounds, the Cupola is about 240 pen, which means it's about a 50-50 whether or not you're going to pen it with premium rounds. So, yeah, it's an awkward kind of penetration value, which is why I say that it's probably not the best tank to make money in. If you're not a player that knows all the weak spots and stuff like that, and you can't really make 200 pen work, and I can't make 200 pen work in some situations. Like, I know quite a lot of the weak spots on the tanks, but even if they're weak spots, sometimes 200 pen is just physically not enough. It's a sad state that we're in with World of Tanks, that 200 pen is just useless in some situations at tier 8, but that's just how it is now. So take from that what you will, and yeah, let me know what you think about the tank, and whether or not you're going to pick it up. And maybe I'm just stupid. Who knows? Maybe 200 pen is more than enough in World of Tanks now. Let me know down below, and I'll see you all in the next one.